Good morning. As you guys can see, the youth and adults and myself have been really busy this summer on multiple different mission trips. In fact, I've been so busy this summer, I haven't even had time to shave my beard, as you notice. And I might actually keep it because in Haiti, I think it kept me safe because they kept referring to me and asking me if I was a terrorist. So, and then everybody here in the United States keeps mistaking me for somebody off that show, The Duck Dynasty. So maybe I'll just keep it for a while. So like I said, we've had an incredible summer and just multiple different opportunities just to go out and to be the hands and feet of Jesus, and 3 different communities in Denver and Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and in Hawley, Minnesota. And God has just done some incredible things on these mission trips. And as you guys have known, we've been doing a sermon series the past month or so on Mission Possible. And we thought that no better way to end this series than to hear students and adults who have gone on these mission trips and had incredible experiences. And, no better way than to hear their stories to wrap up this series. The first mission trip videos that you guys are going to be hearing about is from our mission trip to Port-au-Prince, Haiti. And this mission trip was something that came out of prayer about a year and a half ago. I don't know if you guys remember, I shared this in service a year and a half ago. I'd been praying about how can we do an international, intergenerational mission trip with people in this church. And a year and a half ago, I went to a youth conference, and there was 3,000 youth workers there. And myself and another youth leader were praying about this. And at the conference, they were giving away 10 free trips to Haiti out of 3,000 people. And I was one of the people that won those trips. And then I thought, nobody's going to sign up for this trip because we haven't really done it before, and it's kind of expensive. And the first meeting, we filled all the spots and had 30 people from our church, multiple generations represented on this trip. And it was just an awesome, incredible week. We as you guys know, the beginning of the trip started off a little rough. Our flight got canceled, and here we are in the airport. And a couple weeks ago, Derek and Eric, they preached on the barriers that sometimes get put up that keep us from going on mission trips or doing missions in our lives. And sometimes those barriers are put up by the devil. Sometimes those barriers are put up by ourselves. And then I think sometimes those barriers are put up by God. And I think that this barrier of the flights being canceled and, having a hard time getting to Haiti was a barrier that God had put up on this trip. And it actually ended up being a blessing, because I think sometimes barriers are put up because maybe our team wasn't united enough yet. Maybe we weren't strong enough together as a team to go to Haiti. And so God kind of put that barrier. Instead of an 8-hour trip to Haiti, it ended up being like a 1.5-day trip to Haiti. And it was just but it actually, bonded our group in a way that I think nothing else would have been able to do that. Once we got to Port-au-Prince, we partnered with a ministry called Heartline Ministries. This ministry was started 20 years or so ago by a missionary and his wife. The missionary that we worked with, his name was John. And Heartline Ministries, what they do is they have different things that they do to help the Haitian people. One of the ways that they help them is by they've built a maternity center there. In Haiti, one of the big problems is that women they can't afford to have babies in a safe environment. So a lot of them end up having their babies on the streets, and then their babies, they catch diseases and then they end up passing away. So what John and his ministry has done is they've built a maternity center along with they bought another property which houses a bakery where they train men to learn how to bake goods and then sell those. But they also train them to be disciples. So they're not just, teaching them how to bake goods and make money, but they're teaching them, about who Jesus Christ is. And then they're training them to go out and be disciples in their communities as well. We also worked on a restaurant on the same property that they're building so that women can learn how to cook and then wait tables at this restaurant. So they're providing a way for them to make money as well. We also dug a gigantic hole I don't know if you saw, the picture right there, for a septic tank that will be going in for this restaurant. And as you can see, it's pretty hard work because in Haiti they don't have, really fancy equipment like backhoes and stuff. So it's, a shovel, some buckets, and a bunch of wheelbarrows hauling that dirt away. And we were just blessed with the opportunity to go and to free these missionaries up from doing this physical labor so that they could focus on more important things like discipling the people there and bringing hope to this community. They said that the work that we did in 1 week, the 1 week worth of work, freed them up from 6 months. They said it would have taken them 6 months to do the amount of work that we did in 1 week. So that it frees them up to really just bring hope to that community and to disciple them. So we got 4 people from the Haiti trip that are on videos that are going to be sharing about how this trip has impacted and how it's impacted them, but also encouraged them to be better missionaries in their daily lives here in Longmont.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Rigel Hubert, and I'm a college student at the University of Wyoming. And this summer, I was given the opportunity to travel to Haiti with about 30 other members from our church. It was a great experience, and I felt extremely blessed to have the opportunity to go out of the country and serve Christ and the people down in Haiti. It was my first time out of the country, so I didn't really know what to expect. I knew that we would be traveling to a very poor area. So when we first arrived in Haiti, it was definitely a culture shock for me. But I found that to be quite the blessing. I became really humbled and just really grateful for what I have here. While we were in Haiti, everything was new to me. I didn't really know what to expect in the trip. I didn't know what kind of work God had laid out for us or planned for us while being there. That was also quite the blessing. I was able to go into the mission with an open heart and mind, and I was really excited about that. The other great thing about the trip is we went with a group that had so many different generations, so I was really able to connect well with people of other ages and really get to meet other members of the congregation. While I was there, I grew in my faith quite a bit, but the one thing that I've been able to carry back home with me is the idea that God is our ultimate protector. And sometimes when we're called on these missions, it can be really scary because there are so many things that are just unknown to us. And I think when that happens and we feel called to do one thing, we create these problems, or we think, oh, I'm not good enough for that, or God, why are you calling me? And we make up excuses for not going. And I was a little bit hesitant about going on this mission, but once I was there throughout the week, I was just constantly reminded that God is protecting us, He's watching over us, and He's providing for us. This mission has really gotten me excited for what I plan on doing in the future. I just hope that God will call me on these other opportunities and hopefully more trips that are more relational based so that I can really be able to interact with other people and hear their stories and tell them about how Christ has led me in my life and how He has made me the person I am and how I do my best to follow Him even though I may slip up here and there. That's just really important to me to be able to hear other people's stories and their backgrounds and then also share mine as well. I can't say exactly where I'll be or what I'll be doing, but I just hope and pray that ultimately God will be able to show me where He wants me to serve.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Timms, and I went on the Haiti mission trip in June. I really wasn't expecting on going to the mission trip. I'd heard about it, but I didn't have the money or anything. And then about a month before we left, Lucas called me and he's like, hey, a spot opened up. Would you like to go to the Haiti trip? And I was like, yeah. Well, when we were in Haiti, we went up to this mountain village with all these people that were refugees from the earthquake. And I had brought a little small soccer ball and a pump. And as soon as I took it out, I was surrounded by some guys that wanted to play soccer. And that was really cool because we couldn't speak the same language, but as soon as I brought the soccer ball out, we spoke the same language as soccer. It was really cool to see how God was able to work through me, and also with us working, the work that we did there, I kind of saw God shining through us and making us more present in Haiti to hopefully make a difference. So another thing that really impacted me in Haiti was seeing how little they have compared to how much I have. Like, I don't have to worry about finding a place to sleep every night, or having a roof over my head, or finding food or fresh water every day. It's just kind of given over here, but that's things that they worry about every day over there. And so it's kind of changed my perspective because the things that we take for granted over here are so precious over there. Seeing how God has provided for them, even though they have so little, they're still like very happy, if not happier than we are over here. It was really cool to see how I can let God's love shine through me, even though we can't speak the same language. And maybe you can use that in like your school or work. You don't have to go and say a whole speech to the people. You can just smile at them, and you can let Christ's love shine through you even without words.
Hi, I'm Kurt Schroeder, and I went on the mission trip to Port-au-Prince, Haiti this summer. And the first seeds for that trip for Debbie and I were planted during that earthquake a few years ago. Just seeing the images of the devastation and the people that were just, it was heart-wrenching, and when the opportunity to go to Haiti came up, it just seemed like a natural. And in fact, Debbie and I probably didn't really have much discussion about it at all. It just kind of like, we were going. It was an awesome trip. And that trip did have a big impact in my life, and I find that I am much more in tune to God's involvement, even in the little things in my life now. One of the experiences that impacted my life was that I got to go on an ambulance ride, and one of John, who's the missionary there, his nurses, her mother had had a stroke several months prior, and he had made a commitment to her that he would take her mother to physical therapy at a hospital twice a week, which is not a easy chore, as they don't have any stretchers or anything. You have to manually load this person up that can hardly walk, actually that cannot walk at this time, and put them in the ambulance, take them about half an hour across town and back. And so it's essentially 4 trips a week. That's a huge commitment, and I'm certain that that's one that he will honor, and that influences me that when we make a commitment in our lives, that we need to follow through with it.
I'm Glenn Nipsher, and this is my Haiti story. I went to Haiti with my daughter and 30 other people. Hopefully what I have to tell you today motivates you to do something like this in the future. As we left on our trip. Some of you know the difficulties that we had getting there. A trip that was supposed to be 8 hours ended up taking like 56 hours to get to Haiti. That first night when we missed our airlines, I was ready to scrap it. I go, okay, this is cool. I'm off this week. I can go fishing. I can go up the steamboat, have fun. And so I talked to my daughter, and she goes, no, Dad, we're sticking it out. I call my wife, and my wife goes, from the airport, she goes, is anybody else copping out? And she goes, you're going on this trip. We were doing work for an existing ministry, and I was just kind of numb during that week. But then what kind of broke my heart was on Thursday. We got to go visit one of the refugee cities, one of the cities that was developed after the earthquake in Haiti. And that was probably the highlight of the trip, where I got to view everybody that I was with, interact with the Haitian people. I was able to interact with the Haitian people. I got to see my daughter interact with the Haitian people. And I got to see, that, God, my world, we are so blessed. The needs that I have are nothing in comparison to the Haitian people. They're struggling to meet basic needs. I'm struggling, wondering about my next big screen TV or my next fly fishing rod. So it was on that day that God just broke me, and the numbness that I was feeling during the week, I just started to cry, and that's where God really showed me some of the miracles that He was doing that week. I used to think of myself as a Christian. One of the things I learned on this trip, I am a follower of Jesus. It's about a relationship with Jesus. I hear Pastor Bruce mention in church, praying for missionaries quite a lot. But one thing that we heard continually on the trip was pray for the persecuted church. And that for me to realize that the gospel is really about people who have nothing. it's about the homeless, it's about the orphans, it's about the widows. And so that just became clear to me, and so in my prayer life has developed as a result of that. I am praying for that more. And I came back from it, and God changed my attitude from when I went to now. I was doing work, I was doing my normal job, and I go, man, this is really meaningless. And then God kind of slapped me on the back of the head and said, no, bloom where you planted. No mission field is fruitless. So my work has improved, my attitude. I approach my work now. It's like I really want to communicate the love of Jesus to those that I'm working with. And I just want to take this time I want to thank you, the church, for praying, because I know it's prayer, as a result of prayer, that this trip was successful. So I thank you for your prayer, I thank you for your financial support. I was blessed, encouraged, motivated by every single person on this Haiti trip.
As you can see, God had a major impact on the lives of everybody that went on this trip, and I'm glad that you guys were able to hear their stories. In the middle of the week, I feel like Satan put up a barrier for you guys to not be able to hear their stories, because I got back from work camp on Sunday, shot all the videos, and then Wednesday tried to upload them and realized that there was no audio on any of them. And I'm like, gosh, there's some great things that these people have to share, and so the reason why I did videos, partly was that most of these people were going to be out of town, and so I wasn't going to be able to shoot their video again. But by the grace of God, on Wednesday, I was able to get most of them all back in here, and you guys were, I was glad that you guys were able to hear their stories. The next set of videos is from students who went on our middle school mission trip, as well as our high school mission trip. This summer, we were blessed with the opportunity. Our middle school students had the opportunity to partner with an organization called Center for Student Center for Student Missions, and they worked in downtown Denver, serving the homeless people, working with the elderly at a senior support center, as well as working with homeless or underprivileged children at the Boys and Girls Club and transitional housing facilities. And I just saw God do some incredible things in the lives of our middle school students, and even in the lives of some of the high school students that went on this trip as well. A lot of times, missions work is going and just serving and serving others. But part of this mission trip was, it wasn't just about missions, but it was also about teaching these students what it's like to be homeless. And I think through doing that, it helped them develop more compassion for the poor and the needy. The other mission trip that we went on was with our high school students to work camp to Holly, Minnesota. And this year we decided to do things just a little bit different. In years past, we've taken 2 buses, and we've taken 85 to 100 students and adults. And this year, we really felt like God was calling us just to make it a little bit smaller of a trip. And so there was 50 of us that went this year, and we were trying to be very intentional about the group bonding and relationship building with each other and with the youth on the trip. Our goal and our vision for mission trips isn't just to make it a 1-week mission experience. It's to make it a trip that's going to be impacting for the rest of the weeks throughout the year. And so our hope was that our group would unite in such a way that they would come back here stronger together. Not just stronger together, but stronger in their relationship with Jesus Christ. And so in Holly, Minnesota, we were blessed with the opportunity to work on 45 to 50 different homes where we did painting projects, we built wheelchair ramps, decks, and we just were able to work with residents who either couldn't afford the work to be done, or they were just elderly and they weren't able to do the work themselves. And so, I just saw God do incredible things in the lives of our students and adults, and I'm excited for you to hear their stories.
Hi, I'm Lucas Sell. I went on this recent middle school mission trip to Denver, Colorado, and we really worked with the homeless and just all kinds of people, and it was really cool. It was more social than my last mission trip. That was more physical work and labor with fields and things. But this time was really relational. One of the experiences that really touched me in this mission trip is when we had to go out and find a homeless person and just give them something to eat. And we were searching for a while, couldn't really find anybody. So then we found this guy named Ronald, and he had a really powerful story. And I think it was really cool when we could just sit down and buy a guy a hamburger and just hear his whole story and how everything in his life, how it's impacted him, and how God's been just using us as his workers. And I realized that God puts us in the right place at the right time when we met Ronald, because there was just a lot of things going on in his life, and just for us to think that we have all these things and homeless people have almost nothing. It impacted me because I just feel I need to make a difference everywhere I go.
Hi, my name is Sam Schaff, and I went on the Denver mission trip as well as the work camp to Howley this year. And on the Denver mission trip, we helped out like the elderly, the homeless, and we hung out with a lot of children who might not have parents or parental figures in their lives. And then on the work camp, it was a lot different. We helped out with a lot of residents who didn't have the ability to fix their homes themselves, so they needed help. And a verse I wanted to share that really impacted my faith on what we were doing is 1 John 3:16-17. It's, "We know what real love is because Jesus gave up his life for us. So we also ought to give up our lives for our brothers and sisters. If someone has enough money to live well and sees a brother or sister in need, but shows no compassion, how can God's love be in that person?" And this is basically descriptive of the whole mission trip experience this year. I mean, we're not helping ourselves, we're here to help others, but in return, God does his work on our hearts. The way I saw God through the Denver mission trip was how we just interacted with the kids, and also how we saw a certain homeless person named Paul every day, and we feel like God put him in our path for a reason, and he always had really inspirational things to say. One of the things that really impacted my faith on the Denver mission trip was going to like the Boys and Girls Club, or just hanging out with the little kids who might not have father figures in their life, might not have parental guidance, and just seeing the smiles on their faces when, you know, people like us just want to hang out with them. Like, we don't want anything else but just to try and put a smile on their face. I really think that these work camps and mission trips are really important to go on if you're a kid, because I mean, before I went on the trip, I definitely can't say that my relationship with Jesus Christ is as good as it is now. It's really amazing how just going and trying to change someone else's life can truly change your life.
Hi, my name is Jenna Schummel, and I went on both the Denver mission trip with the middle school kids and the work camp in Holly, Minnesota. This is my 4th work camp that I've been on, and I think for a lot of us middle school or high school kids that sometimes it seems like it's the same thing over and over again. Like, it's always a great experience, and it's always helped me grow in my faith, but I think the Denver mission trip really helped me like step out of my comfort zone. It was really scary for us, and I didn't really know like how to deal with that, and for the first time like on a mission trip, I really had to like just rely straight on faith. One of the things we had to do in the middle school trip was go out and ask somebody that was homeless to go to breakfast with us. And I think it was really hard for us. There was only 3 of us in my little group, and it was hard to just like go up and approach somebody, and I think we were all really nervous, and I just remember walking down the street just praying that God would give me the strength and the courage to like actually just walk up to somebody and start a conversation with them. Okay, after a while of searching for somebody to approach, we met this woman named Franny, and her story really touched me, and it was awesome to just sit down and talk to her about what she's gone through in her life. And she was telling us about how she was homeless for about 3 years. And something that really touched my heart was when she was telling us about how she had met a friend on the streets, and she told us that every time she had gotten something valuable or gotten any money, she would give it to her. And I don't know, that really got to me, just to see like that even people with so little are still giving and showing God's love through that way. This mission trip was more than just going to serve, but it was also a really good experience to learn about what it is like to be homeless. And we had one experience where we had to go out, and it was called the immersion. And we had to go out, and they gave us $2 for dinner and 6 hours and said, go be homeless and survive. And it was only 6 hours of our life, and it was hard.
just the little stuff that you don't think about, like being homeless. Like Ashton Hubert and I, we had to go to the bathroom really bad, and there's literally no place that you can go to the bathroom without like buying something. Like even McDonald's wouldn't even let us go to the bathroom. And it was little stuff like that where we just realized like it's so hard to just do the little stuff, like in sleeping and thinking about all that kind of stuff and getting food every day. And it was a really cool experience to just, again, walk by faith. Throughout the week, Sam Stroff and I were digging in our Bibles every night and just coming across all these verses that we thought were really like important for this week. And one of them we came across that we thought was just absolutely perfect was 1 Timothy 4:12, and it says, "Do not let anyone think less of you because you are young. Be an example to all believers in what you say, in the way that you live, your love, your faith, and your purity." We found that this verse was like just absolutely perfect because even though we're young, we still have the ability to touch people's lives and show God's love through our actions and our words. And I think that week really helped me learn that, and Sam as well, and I think it was awesome.
Hi, my name is Michael Sell. I went on the mission trip that our high school youth just took to Holly, Minnesota with our work camp. I wanted to start off by telling you why it is that I didn't want to go, first of all. I hadn't been on a mission trip in about a year. Last time I went was last summer, actually, when I went to Tanzania, as most of you know. I didn't really want to go to work camp because I had a really bad experience my freshman year. It was the only other time I went. I didn't like the crew that I had. I just didn't like how the program was organized, how it was ran. I felt it was very sloppy. I didn't feel like any of the work that I did really made any kind of difference to anyone's life. And so I was really just struggling with, do I want to go? If so, how is it going to be? And more importantly, am I really going to get something out of it? I just really felt that God was calling me to go on this trip. I had no clue why. I really didn't know what God had in store for me or what He wanted me to do there. I just knew that He was calling me. I just really was kind of yearning for just the mission trip experience. And so a week before we left, I asked Lucas if I could go, and he graciously said yes. I filled out all the slips and I was on my way. We had a resident, his name was Larry. Larry has a twin brother named Jerry. And those two were just the funniest people ever. Larry was so appreciative of everything we were doing. We ended up painting his house. We did some repair work in the inside. His house was really kind of just caving through in the roof. And Larry was just one of the sweetest guys I've ever met. And so he really just kind of touched my heart throughout the entire trip. I didn't really know what to expect when I was going on work camp. I really just kind of felt distant from God throughout the first half of the week. Then about in the middle of the week, they have this night that's called Cry Night. It's just kind of, everyone kind of jokes about it a little bit, you know, it's, ooh, cry night, don't get sad, you're gonna be that guy tearing up. So that night I went into the program that they were having. I didn't really expect to have any sort of kind of a moment because I really kind of felt distant from God. Wasn't quite sure what He was calling me to do. I didn't really know why I was there, why I just kind of went to Holly, Minnesota on just last minute notice. It was right around that time, or Cry Night if you want, where I really just had a moment, and I knew why God wanted me to be there. The program that night was talking all about how we all have those wounds that we need to be healed. They gave us Band-Aids to put on our hand, and when we felt like it, we would go up and place all our Band-Aids on this cross. I sat in the stands for a very long time after he was done talking. Band-Aid was just on the back of my hand. I didn't really know what God wanted me to heal. I was just really upset, and I was really angry that I wasn't having the same kind of experience everyone else was having. And so I went down and I had to talk with Lucas. Kind of just shared with him everything that was going on, how I feel as if God is very distant in my life. I don't quite know what He wants me to do. And Lucas pretty much said, you know, God does have a plan for you no matter what. His thoughts are pretty much, you know, sometimes God is always calling us to do something, whether it's helping the millions or helping a single person. Both are equally great in God's eyes, and that just really struck me hard because it told me that no matter what, God is always calling me to do something. I mean, that's pretty much what Jesus was always telling us, you know, love your neighbor and love me, and that was pretty much all He ever asked of us, or it was the main thing he asked of us. That's what this trip ultimately was telling me, is just kind of to always be looking for God and knowing that God is always calling me to do something. And when he does call, pretty much you don't ever ignore it, because he always does have good things in store for you.
What great wisdom and encouragement from the youth and adults who went on these trips. I think that we all can be encouraged by their experiences and how God worked in them and through them. What I'd like for us to do now is I'd like for us to open our Bibles to John chapter 14, verse 12. It's found on page 1548 in your pew Bibles. And what I'd like for us to do is I'd like for us to read out loud together a word of encouragement from Jesus, as well as a challenge for each and every single one of us. So again, I'd like for us to read out loud together John 14, verse 12, found on page 1548 in your pew Bibles. I tell you the truth. Anyone who has faith in me will do what I have been doing, and he will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. You read this verse, and it looks like mission impossible, right? You see, just before Jesus returned to heaven, he challenged all of us to do something that seems impossible, something that sounds like mission impossible, and yet our God, who cannot lie, has said it. So how can we bring ourselves into obedience with this verse? How can we make this verse a reality in our lives without explaining it away, or without watering it down, or without twisting the meaning? Will we walk on water? Will we raise people from the dead? How do we top what Jesus did? You see, Jesus didn't say that we would work greater miracles than he. But what he did say is that we would do greater works and greater things. But what are the greater things? What are the greater works? Greater than raising someone physically is to raise them spiritually. Greater than physical life is eternal life. The greater work that I think Jesus is talking about here is salvation. Seeing people pass from spiritual death unto spiritual life. Jesus, his primary work wasn't just to walk on water, or to heal people physically, or to raise them from the dead. Even though he did all of those things, the primary work of Jesus was to seek and to save the lost and the lonely. It says in Luke 19:10, "For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save the lost." The work of Jesus was to see sinners saved. And he says that each and every one of us can do that as well. But how can we do greater work than that? You see, I don't believe that John 14:12 is just talking about quality. I think it's talking about quantity. Think about it. More people were converted on the one day of Pentecost than during the entire earthly ministry of Jesus Christ. You see, we can do greater work than he did because we're building upon what he started. Jesus began a work that we are supposed to bring into completion. He began it in his earthly body, and he will continue it through his spiritual body, which is found in every single one of us. You see, we all can do great things for Jesus Christ. And as you see in our society, there are many people who desire to do great things. But sometimes they never see the benefit or the reward of the things that they have done. And I strongly believe that right here, right now, that God is calling each and every single one of us to do great things for him. And I strongly believe that right now God is calling our church to do even greater things for him. How many of you want to see a new start? A new start in seeing the great things within your life being done for God. In the hearts of the people that you come in contact with. In the hearts of the people that you work with. In the hearts of the people that you go to school with. Or maybe in the hearts of the people that are in your own home. Like I was saying earlier, John 14:12 gives us all a cause and a challenge. But we need to understand that great causes present us with great challenges. There were many people in the Bible that faced great challenges. But they were willing to face those challenges head on because they knew that they were doing something great for God. It's time for each and every one of us to step out of our comfort zones. Step out in faith and do something great for the kingdom. You see, when little David went to fight Goliath, an enemy who was cursing his God, David knew that he was fighting for a cause. David knew that he wasn't just bringing victory to himself, but he was bringing victory to God. And that this would remind the world of God's incredible existence. I think one of the problems in churches today is that we don't expect God to do great things. We don't expect to see the power of God at work in us through serving Him. You see, we need to change our way of thinking. Changing our thinking, changing our expectations, and changing our believing. You see, my challenge for each and every one of you here this morning is that you would reach out to one person this week and you would share with them the great message of the gospel. That you would reach out and be determined this week to reach out to one person that is lost. One person that is at a state in their life where maybe everything seems hopeless. One of the things that I've found out and experienced and come to really enjoy through mission trips, and one of the biggest things that I've learned on going on mission trips is that nothing feels better than helping somebody find life. And I'm not talking about just any life. I'm talking about the abundant life that Jesus Christ has to offer. It says in Proverbs 11:30, "The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and the one who is wise saves lives." Jesus did many miracles. He was the great physician. He is the great physician. He is the great teacher. He is the great supplier. But the greatest thing that Jesus came to do was to save the lost. Leading someone to the love of Jesus Christ is better than raising someone from the dead. Because you see, if you raise someone from the dead, they will eventually die again. But if you lead someone to Jesus Christ, they will never die. I read this once, that we all can't be preachers, but we all can be reachers. We can all reach the lost. We can all reach the lonely. We can all share the gospel and Jesus Christ through how we live our lives. We are all called to do that. You see, we don't have to go to Haiti, or we don't have to go to downtown Denver, or we don't have to go to Hawley, Minnesota to share the good news of Jesus Christ with people. We can do that right here each and every day in our community. And I believe that that is what God is calling us to do. That is the great things that Jesus is calling each and every single one of you to do. Live in such a way where people will see Jesus through your life. Like Jonathan said, you don't have to be a great preacher or a great speaker. It's how you live your life. I read one time that, I heard a quote one time that we might be the only Bible that somebody ever reads. And so I encourage you to be that, to live in such a way, whether it's in your work or your schools or wherever that is. We can be the hands and feet right here in Longmont. Going on mission trips is great, but it starts right here with us. If we want to be a church that's about growth and about reaching more people, we need to be a church that is out in our community telling people about the good news of Jesus Christ. We need to be a church and people that are not afraid to step out of our comfort zones and step out in faith. As you see, each and every person that went on these mission trips, they were impacted in a major way. Just think of how many people you could impact in your life and how impacted you could be if every single day was a mission trip. Let us pray.